A small diner thrived amid city bustle. A waiter gave a poor-looking man a free lunch out of good manners. The mistake led to firing. What awaited the waiter next was beyond his expectations. Hi everyone, welcome to Life Unveiled. Let's get started. In a small town where life moved at a steady pace, a modest diner stood quietly. It sat on the corner of the main street, wedged between a faded pharmacy and a tool shop with dusty windows. The exterior was worn, paint peeling from years of neglect, but inside it smelled of hot soup and fresh bread. People came in every day. Factory workers grabbed sandwiches in paper bags, students sipped coffee at wobbly tables, and elderly folks sat by the windows with a plate of mashed potatoes, warming their hands on teacups. In the dining area worked Nathan Brooks, a man in his early 30s, with dark hair slightly tousled from rushing between tables and kind brown eyes that radiated quiet confidence. Nathan had moved to the town 5 years earlier with his wife Sarah and their daughter Lisa, who was just a few months old at the time. He loved his job, though it didn't pay much. He enjoyed moving through the room with a tray, hearing the clink of dishes, watching people dig into warm meals. He knew customers by name, remembered who took tea without sugar, or who always ordered cherry pie after lunch. Sometimes he'd slip an extra spoonful of soup into a bowl, or offer a kid a candy from his apron pocket if he saw the parents looked worn out. The diner belonged to a large chain, and the rules were strict. Everything by the book, no exceptions. But Nathan, raised in a family that taught him to lend a hand to others, believed good deeds mattered more than regulations. And usually, no one noticed. One mid-October day, when wind swept yellow leaves down the streets and grey clouds hung low, a man in tattered clothes walked into the diner. His name was Oliver Green, though Nathan didn't know that. He wore a jacket with a torn sleeve, pants stained with dirt, and his face was covered in stubble. His hands trembled as if he'd been walking in the cold for a while, and his eyes stayed fixed on the scuffed floor. Nathan glanced at him and figured the man could use a meal. From childhood, he'd been taught that if someone looked hungry or tired, you offered help. It was just good manners. He didn't wait for an order. He grabbed a tray, ladled a bowl of hot chicken noodle soup, added a thick slice of crusty bread, and poured a glass of water. He walked to a corner table and set the food down silently in front of the man. Oliver took the tray, nodded in thanks, and started eating, slowly, spoonful by spoonful, as if soaking in the warmth. Nathan went back to his tasks, wiping tables, carrying orders. He felt at ease. He'd done what he was brought up to do, as he had before when he fed folks who knocked on the kitchen's back door after closing. But that day turned everything upside down. The diner's manager, Edward Hill, a thin man with a sharp gaze and perpetually pursed lips, sat in his office upstairs. He watched the dining area through grainy black and white camera feeds, tracking every detail. Edward valued order, despised rule-breaking, and lived by the chain's policies like they were gospel. He saw Nathan give away the food without ringing it up or asking for payment. After the shift, he summoned Nathan to his cramped office, cluttered with papers and empty coffee cups. There, Nathan learned the truth. Oliver wasn't in need. He was an ordinary townsman who'd forgotten his wallet at home on the kitchen table next to his keys that morning. He'd come into the diner planning to ask for food on credit or explain his situation, but Nathan, without letting him speak, brought the tray. Edward didn't care about intentions. The chain's rules were clear. No food without payment, even by mistake. Edward accused Nathan of theft, though he hadn't pocketed a dime, and issued a termination notice. Nathan was handed a stamped paper outlining the policy violation in cold, formal language. He wasn't given a chance to explain, nor allowed to grab his things from the locker or say goodbye to co-workers who watched him leave through the kitchen's glass door. He walked home in a light drizzle, hands empty, with a sense of injustice gripping his chest like the chilly wind. At home waited Sarah, his wife, a nurse at the local hospital. She'd just come off a night shift, tired, with dark circles under her eyes, still in her faded blue scrubs. Their daughter Lisa, a 5-year-old with curly hair, slept in her room, clutching a plush bear missing an ear. Nathan sank onto the couch in their small living room, where the rug was threadbare and the walls bore traces of Lisa's crayon scribbles. He told Sarah what happened, how one meal had erased his job. She hugged him, pressing her cheek to his shoulder, trying to mask her worry. They lived modestly, saving a little for Lisa's schooling, and losing his income meant counting every penny. Nathan spent the next few days at home, surrounded by silence, staring at the blank TV or the raindrops sliding down the window. He replayed the diner in his mind, the clatter of plates, the chatter of customers, the smell of hot food that clung to his clothes. He thought of those he'd helped, the old man he gave extra soup to on a cold day, the single mum whose kid got a candy from his pocket. He hadn't stolen or cheated. He'd just acted as his parents raised him to, being decent. But the chain saw him as a rule breaker, not the one who kept the diner alive. The unfairness burned inside, leaving a bitter taste. The diner carried on, buzzing with voices, while Nathan became a stranger to a place where he'd belonged. Oliver Green, the man from that tray, didn't let the day fade from memory. After eating, he returned to his modest apartment with a worn couch and an old TV. He found his wallet on the kitchen table beside his keys and yesterday's mail, realizing he hadn't paid. The next day, he returned to the diner with cash, but Nathan wasn't at the tables. Oliver asked a freckled young cashier where the waiter who fed him was and heard about the firing. Oliver wasn't just a passerby. He owned a small bakery in a nearby district, baking bread and rolls for local shops and cafes. His business ran steadily, not booming, but reliable, with regulars who loved fresh morning loaves. Learning Nathan lost his job because of him, Oliver chose not to stay idle. He asked around, got Nathan's address through a co-worker who knew Sarah, and a few days later knocked on his door. Nathan opened it, seeing the same man from the diner, now cleaner, with a shaved face and neatly combed hair. Oliver handed over an envelope containing $1,500. It wasn't just payment for the soup and bread, it was more. Oliver explained his bakery needed help, someone good with people, unafraid of early mornings and fond of the smell of fresh dough. He offered Nathan a spot to start anew. Nathan paused, unsure. Pride urged him to refuse. He didn't want help, especially from the man tied to his downfall. But Sarah, standing in the kitchen doorway with Lisa in her arms, looked at him with quiet hope. Nathan nodded, took the envelope, and decided to give it a shot. He started at the bakery a week later. Nathan rose before dawn, when the town still slept and fog draped the streets. He mixed dough, slid trays into the oven, brewed coffee in an old machine with a scratched handle. He liked the rhythm, morning stillness, the rustle of flour, the oven's warmth, the timer's chime when bread was done. Oliver handled deliveries, dealt with shops, kept the books, while Nathan greeted folks at the counter. He brought the same warmth he had had at the diner. Regulars lingered, grabbing coffee with rolls, sharing bits of their day. Nathan baked bread from his mom's recipes, adding a pinch of cinnamon or a drop of honey, and people came back for that taste. The bakery grew. After a few months, Oliver and Nathan expanded, adding 2 tables by the window and simple checkered curtains. The scent of bread wafted down the street, drawing new customers who stopped by for a morning baguette or an apple pastry. Sarah saw her husband come alive again. He no longer sat in silence or stared into space. Lisa beamed when he brought home warm cinnamon rolls, giggling as she hugged his neck while crumbs fell to the floor. Nathan saved enough for Sarah to cut back her hospital shifts. They started fixing up the house, replaced the living room rug, painted the walls a light beige, bien mis maisi, beige, bought Lisa a red-wheeled bike with a bell. The bakery gained a name in the district. People came not just for bread, but for the comfort Nathan created. Edward Hill stepped in once, saw Nathan behind the counter surrounded by customers, and left without ordering. Nathan caught a glimpse of him, but didn't dwell on the past. He was too caught up in the present. One evening after closing, Nathan and Oliver stayed behind. They sat at a window table, sipping coffee from tin mugs, looking at empty shelves where morning bread had been. Oliver admitted he felt guilty about the firing, but Nathan said it turned out better than he'd ever imagined. He'd lost a job over one meal, but found a purpose that gave him and his family peace. The injustice faded in the bakery's warmth, and life opened a new, brighter chapter. Nathan's story shows that good manners can cost you dearly, yet they also unlock surprising paths. Injustice stings, but fate rewards those who stay true to themselves. Help and resilience can turn loss into the start of something greater.
If you enjoyed the story, drop a like and subscribe for more tales like this. Hit the bell, and we'll catch you in the next one.